Today, I want to talk about the Nike Zoom Fly 6. First of all, I appreciate this shoe has been on the market for about 6 months now, and I've had it for about 4, but I finally feel like I've put enough kilometers through it to have a pretty good feeling about how it performs. So let's get to it. First of all, some stats about the Zoom Fly 6. It costs £155 here in the UK, $170 in the US, or 170 euros in Europe. I've seen it for as little as £130 here in the UK recently, so it's beginning to see some discounts. They are available in both men's and women's fit with sizes up to a UK 14 and a D width in the men's, and up to 9.5 in the women's in a B width. It's nice to see Nike going to larger sizes with a carbon plated shoe. Quite a few other brands top out at about a UK 12 with their carbon plated or premium foam shoes. I'm typically a UK 13, which is the size of my Zoom Fly 6, and they fit me just fine, so I would say they are a true to size fit. In terms of weight, my UK 13 pair weighed in at 337 grams, which is right in the ballpark of the ASICS Novablast 5 for a comparison. In a more typical size of a UK 8 or a US 9, I believe they weigh in at about 244 grams. They have a 40mm heel and a 32mm forefoot, resulting in an 8mm drop. The midsole contains Nike's Flyplate carbon plate sandwiched between a top layer of Nike's premium Zoom X foam on the top and some SR02 carrier foam under the plate. The outsole features a good coverage of rubber. Quickly, before I continue, if you are enjoying this or any of my other videos and you aren't currently a subscriber, please consider liking the video, hitting the subscribe button, and stick around until the end of the video. But for now, back to the review. Over the last few months, I've put about 150 kilometers on the Zoom Flies, and my feelings about them have definitely evolved over that time. Straight out of the box, these shoes were very comfortable. The heel collar contains a really good amount of cushioning. The upper material, which is a dual layered mesh, was also really comfortable. There is padding in the right place on the tongue of the shoe, providing some protection for the foot against the laces, but not too much that it adds any extra weight or bulk to the Zoom Fly. In somewhat of a relief, my foot also felt secure inside the Zoom Flies. In Nike's other carbon platers, my arch bulges over the side of the shoe, which makes them uncomfortable and pretty impractical for me, but those issues were not present here. There is a bit of room, say 5 to 8 millimeters from my big toe to the end of the shoe, which felt about right. A bit of room for movement without feeling like the Zoom Fly was too big. Given these have a slightly lower stack height compared to the likes of the ASICS Novablast 5 or Superblast 2, I actually felt higher off the ground in the Zoom Fly 6. The top layer of Zoom X foam also felt more cushioned to me than the foams in either the Novablast or Superblast from ASICS. Initially, on first wear, the Zoom Fly felt a little bit unstable, but once I'd had them on my feet for a short time, I got used to them very quickly and felt more confident in them. So how have they performed on runs? The Zoom Fly 6 is a rare shoe in that I have enjoyed wearing them more and more as I've spent more time in them. Possibly because when I initially wore them, it was the height of winter and I was also coming back from a knee injury, so I wasn't able to fully push them to the paces that I wanted to. When my knee was better, I have mainly used the Zoom Fly 6 for speedier sessions such as tempo, hills, interval and progression runs, seeing me push the pace up to around the 350 per kilometre mark in short bursts, but often sitting more around the 420 to 440 kilometre mark. They have always felt comfortable on the foot and felt pretty stable. They don't quite have the stability of the ASICS Superblast 2 in my opinion, but they were definitely better than the Mizuno Neo Vistas in this department. They tackled tight cornering and lateral roll at speed with no issues or feeling like my feet were going to roll over. In terms of grip, I've worn these throughout the winter months and generally they have performed well. The grip wasn't brilliant on frosted tarmac. I had to watch my footing in these circumstances, but I didn't feel I was going to slip over at any point, but I definitely had to pay more attention to my footing in these areas. but I think that would have been the case in most of my road shoes in those conditions. In all other conditions so far, including wet conditions, the grip has felt good and confident. I did get a nice feeling of cushioning and response from the midsole and some pop from the plate at those faster paces when more energy is being put into the shoe. I also get a pretty nice transition through the foot thanks to a nice rocker design on the Zoom Fly 6 in those faster paces. I've also worn these on a few easier paced runs and long runs, including the London Landmarks Half Marathon recently, where I was going at a relatively relaxed pace of around 5 minutes 20 to 5 minutes 30 per kilometre. Here they performed absolutely fine, perhaps not quite as stable as the Superblast 2 at slower paces, but definitely a contender for a marathon shoe later in the year. In a kind of head-to-head comparison between the Zoom Fly and the Superblast 2, I did the same 8-mile progression run 2 weeks in a row, the first week wearing the Superblast 2 and the second week wearing the Zoom Fly 6. Performance-wise, there really wasn't much between the shoes. The Superblast definitely feels lighter on the foot, but I think the carbon plate on the Zoom Fly 6, which isn't present on the Superblast 2, does a good job of compensating for the extra weight of the Zoom Fly 6. As I've said before, I do think the Superblast wins in terms of overall stability, especially at the slower paces. I have the HOKA Rocket X2 in my shoe collection, and for all out pace and on race day, such as my recent race at the Podium Festival 2, where I was aiming for a sub 20-minute 5K for the first time, there is a video about that on the channel, I would opt for the HOKAs over the Zoom Flies. This is purely because they are a lot lighter and have more of a stack of premium PEBA foam rather than the Zoom Flies, but if I didn't have the HOKAs, I would have absolutely no issues reaching for the Zoom Flies for a race. So my conclusions about the Zoom Fly 6. For the money, the Zoom Fly 6 is possibly the best value to performance proposition on the market. They are £50 cheaper than the Superblast 2 at RRP and even more with recently seen discounts, and that makes them an incredible deal. They are at the same price point as the Mizuno Neo Vista, and to be honest, despite giving that shoe a strong review last year, I think the Zoom Fly 6 absolutely wipes the floor with them. They wouldn't be my choice for a single shoe setup. Based on my own experience, for that I would definitely favour the Novablast 5, or if your budget allows, the Superblast 2 from ASICS, which bring a little bit more stability for those daily miles or recovery runs, while still being strong performers at the faster paces. Say for a 2-shoe rotation, this would definitely be a solid choice in my view to sit as that speed day and race day shoe, with perhaps something else for those slower runs. In a 3-shoe rotation, they'd fit perfectly as that speed day training shoe with something lighter with a full stack of premium foam and carbon plate for race day, such as the HOKA Rocket X2, and something with a bit more stability for those easier miles, such as the ASICS Novablast 5. So there are my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.